questions you'll answer for me. What reforms are we talking about? Do they work when they hit the ground? And why not? So when the reforms come into the schools and they look pretty and they're in nice booklets like this and they have support and they have things up online, but do they work in school? And when do they work and when might they not work? And to me, for you as well as leaders, that's the absolute key to schooling. The coherence between what policy proposes, assuming policy is okay, and then what really happens in the classrooms, in the staff rooms, in the principal's office. That is where it happens. And that is where success, in my opinion, is determined. So this is the policy intent. It's the reason. Then they give it to people like you, I imagine. They give it to people in state departments, etc. And your job is to try and work out what they mean and write it down. Then what happens? We have policy in use. This is what happens when it hits the school. As we say, when the rubber hits the road. And again, my thesis is that's what makes a difference to students' lives. But as we know in reality, anything that comes into a school or any policy that we try will go all over the place. It will not be a linear process. When they are bundled up, so it's not just one, it's two, it's three, it's four, it's 50 policies that come in, they confuse. And there begins to be a cleft or a distance, a disconnection between the visionary structures of the policy, in other words, what they say they want to achieve, their purposes, etc., and the processes that make them work in school. This is a disconnection between what the reforms demand and the practical realities of leading and learning in schools. Do reform demands take into account the context of schooling and work lives of teachers and principals in your system? And this has got two different faces, if you like. It's between the purposes, thrust and content, both within a particular reform and between different reforms. So when I talk about coherence, coherence is about how things fit together. And do they fit together neatly and properly as they are intended to fit together? This is disconnection between the reforms and the broader governance and political structures that are established, underpinning life in schools. And this is a disconnection between what reforms demand and the cultural realities of teaching in and leading schools. If you just take a policy, like a lot of countries do, if you just come and take that and try and put it into your schools, you risk a serious cultural disconnection. Often we have these beautiful policies, but no one goes out and tells people about them. People treat schools like they don't understand. They don't give them the reason for it. Intelligent educators like yourselves are unlikely to do things if they don't understand why they're being asked to do things. This is about people who are used to doing things in a certain way through centuries of tradition, whatever, and different things that come into their school can be emotionally unsettling. It moves them across and it moves them out of where they are. So, a school leader's job becomes one of trying to manage those disconnections, trying to manage the different policies that come into the school, and at the same time make the school the place that it should be. Now, the way that leaders make a difference in simple terms is through the organisational culture that they establish in their school. So how a leader forms that culture, that learning culture, that environment is very key. But most of all, they make the difference through how they work and how they develop people. Again, this is my opinion. Leadership is about getting the people in the school to work for the students. And it doesn't matter what else we have, it's unlikely that will work. And this hopefully all comes together into both results and satisfaction in terms of students.